Hello, everyone. I am Hannah Burkaw, and I am here with my funny and wonderful husband,
Ooh, husband.
Shane Burkaw. I think this is the first time I've seen you in a suit, Shane.
Well, that is a sign that this is a very important event. I was styled by my lovely wife tonight. I'm not wearing pants, but that is a benefit of this virtual gala that we are having.
That's true.
I have lived with a disability called spinal muscular atrophy my entire life, and I am beyond proud to be a board member of DRA.
Shane and I live together in Minneapolis with our dog, Chloe. We just got married about 2 months ago.
I can't believe
So
it.
it's very new and exciting for us, yeah. And we have a YouTube channel together called Squirmy and Grubs, where we make videos about our life. And our goal is to normalize disability and dating and relationships and to bring awareness to many of the issues surrounding disability.
We are so honored to be hosting this evening with disability rights advocates. This year, we recognize 30 years of the ADA and almost as many years of DRA. The past 3 decades have seen unbelievable advances in liberty and equity for people living with disabilities. But as we all know, there is still much to be done. This is where DRA comes in. Groundbreaking, brave, and life-changing wins in courts that translate to real change and progress in the streets.
We first want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for supporting the incredible work of DRA, and for giving so generously of your energy, passion, and financial support. A special thank you to our Rabble Rouser sponsors, Bob and Colleen Haas, and the California Endowment.
Rabble rousers, I love it. We have a few bits of housekeeping. You will likely have noticed that we have ASL interpreters joining us on the screen, and we'll periodically rotate them, as well as closed captioning throughout the program. We also invite you to say hello in the chat. The chat is also a great place if you have any technical or accessibility questions or requests for us. We have a beautiful evening ahead, inspiration and education and community. To kick us off, I am delighted to introduce DRA's board chair, Christina Rubsey. It is such an honor to serve on the board with Christina.
She is an international trademark attorney, former mayoral appointment as a member of the board of directors of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, and an avid sailor. She is a great example of the incredible people associated with DRA. Christina?
Hello, and welcome to Disability Rights Advocates 2020 Virtual Gala. We are so excited to host our first virtual gala because it gives us the opportunity to connect to more people. And for DRA, whose work is national in scope, it allows us to gather our staff, clients, friends, and supporters from all over the country all at once. In addition to welcoming you, I want to give special thanks to our clients and sponsors. Obviously, DRA relies on its clients to bring the groundbreaking cases it brings. And this evening, you will have a chance to hear from some of our amazing clients and hear their stories. My second special thanks is to all of our generous sponsors. The support you provide allows DRA to take on high-stakes, impactful litigation where attorney's fees are uncertain. There's so many others to thank, but I will leave that in the capable hands of DRA's incredible interim executive director, Kate Hamilton. So once again, welcome and thanks for joining us.
I have lived with my disability my entire life, and I've experienced countless instances of discrimination and violations of my civil rights. As a kid and a teenager and even a young adult, I kind of thought that that was just the way life is when you have a disability. But as I got older and became more involved in the disability community, I realized that there are so many people fighting for change, perhaps none greater influence than DRA.
When I began dating Shane about 4.5 years ago, I think that was sort of my initiation into the world of ableism and accessibility issues and everything surrounding disability rights. On one of our first ever dates, we were walking along a nice lake path, and a man who had a bunch of kids kind of near a playground came running up to us. And he had a big bubble wand for all the kids to play with. So he ran up to us and he asked me, does he want to play with bubbles? And I sort of looked around, like wondering where the child was that he obviously thought was mine. And he said it again and sort of pointed at Shane, does he want to play with bubbles? And whenever that happens, I tend to just like let Shane answer that question, right? Because, you know,
and
ask him yourself.
As badly as I did want to play with bubbles, I told him, no, sir, I'm on a date with my lovely girlfriend. These kinds of interactions are very common for us.
Yeah, and over the last 4.5 years that we've been together, I have learned that there is so much room for improvement in our society in terms of accessibility and disability rights. And it makes me so happy to know that DRA is making huge changes in our country.
DRA makes magic happen. Their results suggest a team of hundreds, but the reality is they get results from a team of 30 brilliant, committed, passionate professionals. At the helm during this time, as DRA's interim executive director, is the fabulous Kate Hamilton.
What a year. 2020 has thrown us a pandemic, horrifying racial injustice, raging wildfires, floods, heat waves, storms, and deeply divisive politics. In the face of these challenges, DRA has a huge amount to be grateful for. And I want to start there, our supporters. And that means each and every one of you that have contributed your time, your talent, and your resources to fuel DRA's work. Christina Rubke, our fearless, talented, heartful leader who listens carefully and acts swiftly, always with the best interests of our clients and staff in mind. Our founders, Larry Paradis and Sid Wilinski, brilliant and focused attorneys who created an organization that was and still is deeply effective and financially solid, ready to weather a storm like this one. Our staff, passionate, driven, and insightful, ready to pivot to meet the moment that we're in, and deeply committed to protecting the civil rights of people with disabilities, including Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color. Because of these pillars, our supporters, our leadership, our staff, and our founders' vision, DRA has, I'm proud to say, continued to do what we have always done best, creating timely, relevant, systemic change that yields equality for people with disabilities across the nation. I started with DRA in 2013 as the organization's development director. I grew up in the nonprofit sector. My parents were pioneers in the environmental movement. I had worked for a variety of organizations focused on bringing about social and economic equality, and I was deeply struck by DRA's impact. I'd never encountered an organization that, with a staff of only 30, was truly changing the fabric of American society. I jumped at the opportunity to join the team of fearless attorneys who, case by precedent-setting case, were leveling the playing field for people with disabilities in every key area of life: healthcare, emergency preparedness, transportation, education, criminal and juvenile justice, employment, technology, the list goes on. Larry and Sid founded DRA in 1993, shortly after the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, a historic civil rights law prohibiting discrimination against people with disabilities in all areas of public life. This law on its own could not bring about the needed change. The law needed fierce warriors for justice, willing to battle in the courtroom to ensure the promise of the ADA was fulfilled. DRA was and still is those warriors. 30 years after the passage of the ADA, and thanks to DRA and so many other fierce advocates, society has improved in many ways for people with disabilities. Society has also continued to evolve. New technology, new ways to vote, new ways to attend school, new ways to work, new forms of transportation, new ways to provide healthcare. 2020 has seen more rapid change in almost every key area of life than we've seen in decades. As these changes occur, too often people with disabilities are overlooked and left behind. That's where DRA comes in. DRA works closely with community groups across the country to identify and dismantle emergent barriers facing people with disabilities. DRA specializes in bringing high-impact, class-action, precedent-setting legal cases that defend the civil rights of people with all types of disabilities across the nation. This year, DRA protected the civil rights of people with disabilities who needed to receive medical treatment in a pandemic, who wanted to cast their vote in our upcoming election, who wanted humane treatment and safe conditions in ICE facilities, who wanted to ride subways, who want to receive education, and so many more. DRA's work couldn't be more important. DRA's work couldn't be more urgent. DRA's work couldn't be more exciting. And we're thrilled to share some of that excitement with you all tonight. I want to thank you all for sharing your valuable time with us, and I hope you enjoy the program ahead.
Thank you, Kate, for your leadership and your commitment to advance equal rights and opportunity for people with all types of disabilities nationwide.
As we all know, DRA cannot do this without your support, without the support of all of us. Many of you have been so generous with your support already, and we thank you. But if you have not, or are new to DRA, or feel inspired to give again, now is your opportunity to join us.
And we have exciting news. In the past 48 hours, DRA received a very generous gift, a matching gift for tonight's event of $50,000. That means that every dollar you contribute tonight or throughout the week, up to 50,000 is doubled. We know that with your help, we can get DRA to the $100,000 goal tonight. But how do we do it? All right, here's how.
Here's how.
We'll tell you.
You can text your gift to DRA. You can send a message to 41444. Just make sure your message says DRA space, the amount you want to give, space, and your name. And then you hit send. And once you send that text, you will receive a message in return with a link to process your payment. It's very simple. And you can see, for example, there's DRA 1,000 Fred and Ginger.
DRA 100 million Fred and Ginger.
Much better.
While all of you are sending in your donations, let's take a look at a few of DRA's accomplishments from this year.
New York City's streetscape will dramatically shift to make pedestrian safety accessible to people with disabilities through the installation of accessible pedestrian signals. Currently, New York City fails to provide APS at 96.6% of its signalized intersections.
This is a very relevant one. Voters with disabilities in New York and North Carolina will be able to cast absentee ballots in this upcoming critical election.
Students with disabilities in West Los Angeles College will have equal access to education.
We will continue with our program now, but don't stop giving. One of the exciting aspects of a virtual event is that all of DRA's special friends and supporters can be here with us tonight, no matter where they are. We are so honored to be in the company of these people, activists, advocates, thinkers, doers, inspirers. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Nixon. I first became aware of DRA in 2018 when I ran for governor of New York. Through fellow Hunter High School alum, Sasha Blair Goldenson, one of the plaintiffs in the 2017 DRA lawsuit against the MTA. Accessibility in our subways is so important, and only a quarter of the stations are presently accessible, but DRA is changing that with victory after victory, including their amazing appellate court win just this June. I remember so well when the ADA passed 30 years ago, what a victory that was. But what's very clear is a law can't work by itself. A law needs bright, committed, tenacious, well-funded lawyers to bring those suits and make sure that it's enforced. And DRA is that organization, a small but mighty organization that punches way above its weight. Many congratulations to you. I'm so proud to know you. I'm so proud to be a supporter and an ally. You're my heroes.
My name is Felton Henderson, and this is my little companion, Missy Henderson, here with me. I was a federal district court judge in San Francisco from 1980 until my retirement in 2017. And during that 37-year period, I handled literally thousands of cases of all kinds: criminal, patent, antitrust, maritime law, environmental law, you name it. And as I look back on my career, I can easily say that disability rights advocates was one of the most consistently professional and one of the most effective, dedicated, and successful advocacy groups to regularly appear in my courtroom. I took the time to call a number of my law clerks from over the years, and not a single one could recall a case that DRA lost in our courts. And now that I find myself disabled due to a very slowly progressing muscle disease, I'm able to appreciate even more the great work that DRA does to ensure that the Americans with Disability Act is complied with. And it is a constant reminder to me that DRA does not just represent the disabled community of today. They are also systematically changing the world around us so as to be more accessible and more accommodating for those who will become disabled in the future. Thank you so very much, DRA, for all that you do for all of us.
Hey guys, it's Zach Anner, and I just wanted to thank everyone at the DRA for allowing me to be a part of this amazing night. And Shane, I have to admit that when you invited me, I didn't even know what the letters DRA stood for, let alone all of the amazing work that you all are doing. And now that I do know, I'm just eternally grateful because you guys have been doing stuff that affects my life directly in positive ways for years, and I didn't even know about it. For instance, the first time I went to New York City as an adult, I couldn't get an accessible cab to save my life. And then when I went back a few years later, there were accessible cabs on every corner. So I literally don't know where I would be without the DRA. Probably still stuck in Queens somewhere, like hiding out in a Duane Reade or something, building a life. But I also wanted to thank you for the incredible work that you're doing, making sure that everyone with a disability can vote by absentee ballot if they need to. It is so important. You're not only making sure that everyone with a disability has a place in our society, but also has a voice in our democracy, and that is such important work. Thank you for everything you have done and are doing, and thank you for fighting not just the good fight, but fighting it for the long haul. We need you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I'm Judy Fine, and I was married to Larry Paradis, one of the co-founders of Disability Rights Advocates, known as DRA. Larry was born with a genetic disorder, a genetic disease that was degenerative. And until he became disabled, he really didn't get what it meant to not be included in society. We would go out to eat. Without fail, the person would ask me, what did Larry want to eat? Did he want water? They did not recognize him as an individual with a mind of his own who could speak his truth, sitting in a wheelchair. Who cares? He's sitting in a wheelchair, you know? I think that just is such a clear statement about our society and the invisibility of people with disabilities. Lack of respect is really what it comes down to. And I think that's the clincher when it comes to inequality in our society and lack of access is it's a lack of respect. And I think DRA is what is giving a voice to people with disabilities across the board, no matter where you come from. You know, Larry saw the founding of DRA as a way to describe what the ADA's laws meant for the community. There's so much more work that needs to be done. We're nowhere near done. And we need to keep fighting the fight.
Hi, my name is David Flink, and I am the founder and CEO of the national nonprofit Eye to Eye and a huge supporter of disability rights advocates. And let me tell you why. To support disability rights advocates is to support a legacy of fighters for people with disabilities. And I, as someone with a disability, I have dyslexia and ADD, so appreciate that investment over the years has allowed me to succeed. Let me tell you, I understand this. When I was first growing up with dyslexia and ADD, I had no clue how many people had come before me to ensure that my learning rights were protected. And it was disability rights advocates that ensured that year after year, people like me were able to succeed in school and in life. And as a result of that, I went on to found a nonprofit that supports people who have learning disabilities specifically. We're a mentoring program that matches college and high school students who have dyslexia and ADD with little kids who have dyslexia and ADD. I often think about Eye to Eye as the carrot. They're the thing that's possible when people who can see themselves and others are able to succeed. The disability rights advocates, they're the sticks. They're the ones that ensure that when things go off the rails, our people, my people, are protected. People with disabilities can rest easy at night because of the legacy of work that disability rights advocates has done. But an investment in disability rights advocates is also an investment in the future. Unfortunately, our work is not done, and disability rights advocates has continued to step up and stand up for people with disabilities. I remember many years after I first began, I got a phone call from a staff member at DRA, and they told me that I was going to get an Eagle Award, one of the highest awards that DRA gives. And I was humbled. It was because of DRA that I was even able to succeed in life, much less start a nonprofit. I flew out to California where the event was held, and I met my people, not just those that I had been working with at Eye to Eye, but our greater community. DRA not only fights for our people, we create community to be seen, heard, and valued. I met with some of the people there in that meeting, and I said, we need to work more closely together. And we all agreed. And not only that, a year later, Eye to Eye started its second office. We were based in New York, and we started our second office in California. And where was that office? In the heart of the Disability Rights Office in California, in the background of where the disability rights movement began. It was just me late at night trying to set up for the additional staff that would be joining me, and my phone rang. It was someone from DRA. I looked at the phone and it said DRA, and I picked it up, and it was just somebody, again, wanting to know how they could help make sure that Eye to Eye could succeed. That's how DRA works. They call you, they call upon us all to ensure that we can succeed so our movement can succeed. Now, some years later, we're celebrating virtually, right? It's not nearly as much fun as being together in the community, but our phones are still ringing. We are still being called upon to ensure that the work that we all need to do together can be that of change and progress. I'm so grateful for the work that DRA does. I'm committed to continuing to invest in DRA and not just show homage to all that's been done for us, but to continue to invest in what will be done together. Congratulations on a wonderful event. I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I know that years ahead, we will continue to make progress and change the world together. Thank you, disability rights advocates.
While we would like to think that you would just take our word for how groundbreaking the work of DRA is for people with disabilities and all people, you don't have to. Please turn your attention to the following story of DRA.
Disability Rights Advocates, 2020 Virtual Gala, 30 Years of the ADA, Warriors for Justice. 1 in 5 people in the U.S. has a disability. Most of us at some point in our lives will have a disability. Over 25 million people in the U.S. have vision loss. Over 48 million people in the U.S. have hearing loss. Disability Rights Advocates protects the civil rights of people with all types of disabilities. For this reason, the following video has been made fully accessible by the use of open captioning for the deaf and hard of hearing and open audio description for people who are blind and low vision. Audio description provided by Michelle Spitz, woman of her word. An institutional corridor lined with barred cells.
You wake up this morning, you need to pray because inside ICE, you have to praise, you have to give God thanks because you're still alive, you're not dying. In immigration, they don't treat you as human beings, they treat you as animals.
Men wearing red shirts and pants resembling medical scrubs file through a doorway. A guard stands nearby. In 2016, Jimmy Sudney was detained by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency and spent nearly 4 years in ICE custody. In a photo, a man in a leg brace poses by a red SUV. In August 2019, DRA and partners filed a lawsuit highlighting ICE's illegal disregard of medical and mental health needs and discrimination against immigrants with disabilities.
No medical attention, no sanitized attention, no food attention. It was a bad experience, that I wish no other people have to go through that.
The stark exterior of the Adelanto Detention Facility West. Jimmy recounts an incident of unprovoked abuse he suffered from a guard at the detention facility.
I remember one time they had a fight and I was just standing by and the lady did not even go to the fight where I was sit down and eat, and then she just come and spray me in my face with the pepper spray.
Jimmy grimaces, squeezing his eyes tightly shut at the memory. He points to his right eye.
This eye was pretty much swallowed up for nothing. And the next day I had a seizure and I went to the hospital because I had a seizure.
Jimmy has multiple health conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and heart complications, making him extremely vulnerable to COVID-19.
If somebody had COVID, everybody was gonna have it because it's no space, it's crowded, and that person might be die before they finally take them to the hospital.
At the facility, dozens of men stand shoulder to shoulder as they line the walls of a cafeteria. Because of his dire circumstances, Jimmy eventually made contact with DRA, hoping that they would be able to help him get out of ICE detention.
DOA contact ICE and say, hey, why Jimmy hasn't seen a doctor yet? Can I have his medical record? Putting pressure on ICE. DOA was putting pressure on ICE.
DRA and partners filed a preliminary injunction against ICE calling for the release of detained immigrants with high risk of contracting COVID-19. Rows of bunk beds lie end to end in a massive dormitory. On April 3, 2020, Jimmy Sudney was released from the Adelanto ICE detention facility.
So the day I was out, I was pretty much happy, I run to the parking lot, to finally see my mom, give her a real hug, and I was so happy, and say, oh, thank God. That was the best feeling of life, and when I see my little girl, she run to me and give me a hug, that was the best thing in life,
Jimmy, wearing a tuxedo shirt and tie, poses with his young daughter wearing a gauzy white dress. In a selfie, they lean together head to head.
I have my daughter, I have a job, I go to work, and I'm studying a day-by-day life. I'm grateful of DRA will help me, and the lawyer will help me file the paper. I'm grateful not being in ICE custody. I'm grateful of my life.
At a protest, demonstrators of all abilities hold signs that read, "Respect disability rights," provide adequate health care, and "This isn't a processing center, it's hell." Many wear t-shirts with the message, "Hold ICE accountable." DRA continues to fight for the rights of immigrants detained by ICE across the country. DRA has pursued impact litigation all over the country, improving almost every aspect of people's lives. 25 dots populate a map of the United States, marking locations from Alaska to Texas and from the East Coast to the West. Icons appear that encircle the country: criminal justice, housing and homelessness, emergency preparedness, architectural barriers, education, transportation, healthcare, employment, technology, voting, and many more. A woman directs her wheelchair and attention towards a computer screen. Liz Fust is a client of DRA and an attorney in Louisville, Kentucky. She had a spinal cord stroke in 2006 and is a T7 paraplegic. In a photo, she scales a rocky crevice, her hands and feet pressed against opposite walls. At First Urology in 2019, Liz's physician prescribed a CT scan, a procedure that is conveniently performed at the same location as her physician's practice.
When I went to schedule the CT, the scheduler asked me if I was a full lift. I said, well, I don't know what that means. My arms work so I can assist, but I do need help to transfer to a CT scanner to have this done. And she said, well, we don't do that. We won't help people transfer. And I said, I think that's a violation of the ADA. And she said, well, we have a policy. So she handed me the written policy. It's really upsetting. It gives you a feeling that you're not worthy. You are unworthy of their full care. Having access to medical care is a problem. It is rarely accessible. This is just the first time someone flat out refused and showed me a written policy.
With the help of DRA attorneys, Liz filed a lawsuit against First Urology seeking to require them to provide accessible medical equipment and enact policies, procedures, and training to deliver adequate care to all patients with mobility disabilities.
I'm enormously grateful for DRA, and I urge everyone who may be listening to this to support DRA because this work is important and there are not a lot of people who can do it.
On July 27, 2020, DRA filed a lawsuit against the North Carolina State Board of Elections for excluding North Carolinians with disabilities from their absentee voting program. A young woman in a pink hoodie.
There are 50 states in the United States, and not all of them allow people with disabilities to vote through absentee ballots.
Kendall Gibbs is 23 years old and from North Carolina. She is visually impaired and a member of the North Carolina Council of the Blind.
So in this 2020 election, we would have to have someone physically fill out our ballot for us, which we felt was a breach of privacy and independence as a person with a visual impairment. So I decided to take it upon myself, along with a couple of others, to be a voice for those who want to vote absentee ballot but cannot. And it was definitely an honor that disability rights advocates decided to take our case.
In a Zoom meeting, Kendall smiles and chats with a DRA representative.
The first absentee voting case that we brought was actually in New York to make absentee voting for their primary accessible to voters with disabilities.
Rosie Bichelle is the Justice Catalyst Fellow at Disability Rights Advocates and a lawyer on Kendall's case.
In the North Carolina absentee voting case, our primary obstacles there were the state's unwillingness to recognize the urgency of needing this kind of fix. They acknowledged that their absentee voting program discriminated against voters with disabilities, but they just said that they didn't have enough time to do anything about it before November 3rd. The judge did not buy their argument that there wasn't enough time, and lo and behold, they're working on implementing now. So it seems that there was enough time for them to do it the whole time. They just didn't want to do it.
It was on a Wednesday, and the judge dismissed. He went for a recess. About 5 o'clock that evening, I got a call from Disability Rights Advocates stating that we had won the case. And my first statement was, history has been made. It's been 30 years, and I'm not even 30 years old yet. So it's been amazing. The emotions were immense because I was shocked, empowered, impressed that, I am 23 years old and I had a part of such an amazing case. As a person with a visual impairment, it definitely showed me, that I have the ability to do things like this. I have the ability to advocate and express my opinion to make things happen.
Demonstrators carry signs. We heart ADA. Disability rights are civil rights. A man in a suit and an open collar.
What disability rights advocates fight for every day are the civil rights of people with disabilities.
In a photo, he speaks at a lectern. Daniel Brown is a lawyer for Shepard, Mullen, Richter, and Hampton LLP, who has worked as co-counsel with DRA on numerous accessibility cases over the last decade.
I personally witnessed the impact of DRA's cases when my brother visited New York City and for the first time was able to hail an accessible taxi. It just shows how important the work is.
Daniel and his brother in a wheelchair smile for a photo.
My brother, who grew up in New York City, all of a sudden was unable to
Dan wipes a tear from his eye.
Get a taxi if he wanted was absurd. And if not for disability rights advocates, that would still be the case today.
Jimmy Sudney.
The hope I had is somebody thinking about us, and DRA is the one who thinking about reforming immigration. So that was my best hope.
Liz Fust.
I'm enormously grateful. I feel at ease knowing that they have my back.
Kendall Gibbs.
Thank you. Thank you for taking on this case. Thank you for being so generous and for being so passionate, patient, and being such a strong advocate.
DRA staff posed together at an event. Daniel Brown.
The reason that DRA's work is so important is most of their cases don't impact one or two people. They impact thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of people.
At the ICE protest, a speaker stands at a podium bearing the sign, "Hold ICE accountable." A sign language interpreter stands nearby.
The fight that DRA fights every day couldn't be more important to me and my brother and everyone who has or knows someone with a disability.
Liz smiles at dinner with friends. In a video call, she laughs.
Everyone's life is better because of the cases and the results that DRA has had.
Kendall hugs a black lab. In a video call, she smiles broadly. Jimmy and his little girl take a selfie. In a video, his smile reveals deep dimples. DRA, Disability Rights Advocates, 2020 Virtual Gala. 30 years of the ADA, Warriors for Justice.
Wow. Just wow. And I can attest to this, but I'm very rarely at a loss for words. Right now, I am just overtaken by how profound that was. I remember when DRA asked me to consider being a board member, I didn't know what DRA was. And so I went onto their website and I began to read about the cases that they had handled over the history of their organization. And I recognized many of the cases. I was like, oh my God, they're the ones that like reformed the taxi accessibility in New York City. They're the ones that are making subways more accessible. I couldn't believe it, like that this giant, amazing organization had been doing all this work unbeknownst to me. And also at the same time, I was like, are you sure you want me, a little lowly me involved? But I couldn't believe it. And I was beyond honored to join their work for making the world more accessible and equitable for people with disabilities. There is really no better time to support DRA. And in case you missed it before, here are the instructions for how you can give right now.
Yes, you can text your gift to DRA. So send a message to 41444 and make sure your message says DRA space the amount you want to give space and your name. And then you can hit send and you'll get a text back with a link to process your pledge. For example, DRA 1000 Fred and Ginger.
And while you're all doing that, we are thrilled to invite Kate Hamilton back to talk with us about the work of DRA and what your support will help make possible. Kate? Hi, Kate.
Hi, Shanna. Hi, everyone.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what everyone's donations to DRA help support?
I sure can. And I'm going to ask our staff that I know are pretty active on the chat feed right now to also pipe in while I'm talking and just let people know what case area you are most excited about DRA pursuing in the next little bit, or what specific case you are most excited about DRA pursuing because you think it's so important. We've got 30 really talented staff. And part of what your donations support is those staff bringing big, often pretty risky cases that literally change the fabric of American society. So bringing those cases is one thing that your donations do. Another thing is funding fellowships. DRA for a long time has had a history of committing to train the next generation of leaders to take on this really important work. So we bring fellows in, we train them, and then we keep them at DRA and they become staff attorneys, or we release them into the world to go off and do really important civil rights legal work. And then finally, we need donations to help expand the scope of our work. You heard tonight about DRA doing work in places that we've never done work before. Kentucky, North Carolina. We've always done work in California. More recently, we've done a lot of work on the East Coast. Your donations help us make sure that the precedent-setting work that we do can be done in new places across the country where the work is badly, badly needed. And as you all know, this work is needed. There will never be an end to the need for DRA's work. As society continues to evolve, the need for DRA's work continues to evolve. So thank you all who have been contributing. It's been really fun seeing those donations come in. Just as a reminder, we started the evening with $217,000 in donations from all of you who are here. So just a quick shout out. Thank you all so much who have given contributions to DRA thus far. And we have this amazing $50,000 matching gift that has been put out there to all of you tonight, which means that every dollar that you contribute gets matched up to $50,000. So now's the time. If you haven't done it, if you stumbled across this YouTube channel, if your friend dragged you in here and said, you've got to come learn a little bit more about this organization and you haven't yet made a donation, we would so appreciate it if you would. It'll help us continue to do the great work that we do.
Thank you so much, Kate. This is a wonderful night, and I hope that everyone has been able to send in a donation. It will remain open following the event, so get your donations in there. I'm receiving word that DRA has raised over $12,000 with tonight's event, and we are blown away and so thankful for all of your donations. It has been a hard year for everyone, and we so appreciate you for stepping up for the DRA in this way.
Yes, thank you so much for the privilege of being with you tonight and allowing us to lead this evening's beautiful program. We are honored to be a part of DRA's legacy in this tiny way.
We feel really fortunate to be a part of this community. And to send us off this evening, we've asked a few of our friends to toast the work of DRA and the past, present, and future of bringing the ADA to work for all of us. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
My name is Judy Human, and as one who had polio in 1949, grew up in New York and spent about 18 years in California, I understand the great work that the disability rights community has done over these decades, but also clearly understand that very typically laws are not implemented as they need to be without the assistance of qualified attorneys. Disability Rights Advocate has been a leader in the field. I've been proud to know their founders and to have done some work with you over the years. I toast to you all and wish you great luck in the future and hope that we will continue to fight for the rights of disabled individuals and that DRA continues to play a leadership role in this endeavor.
Hi, I'm Doreen Jacopini. I'm a mediator and commissioner on the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. I have been a huge fan of DRA's since it was just a glint in the eye of my dear friend Larry Paradis. And I'm grateful to him to have been associated with DRA as a founding board member, client, staff, and huge supporter. I am so proud of the work that DRA has done from its inception with no permanent office, no staff, through today as an established and strong force for good for the disability community. DRA has improved the quality of my life and the lives of many by facilitating access in almost every conceivable area: transportation, travel, paths of travel, the internet, businesses, healthcare, housing, employment, education, entertainment, even elections. With awesome new leadership and incredible staff, DRA continues to work toward the values and visions first contemplated by Larry all those years ago. Thank you, DRA, for 30 years of amazing work. Here's to 30 more.
My name is Evan Davis. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Disability Rights Advocates and a retired litigation partner of Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen, and Hamilton. We have the ADA. It is a marvelous step forward in disability rights and looks great to me on paper. But it can't only be on paper. It has to be enforced so that opportunity is in fact expanded for people with disabilities. And that's where DRA comes in. DRA is like the concept of the private attorney general that we use to see to the enforcement of other laws. It is a private group of lawyers who bring lawsuits to enforce the ADA and other disability rights laws, to enforce the civil rights of people with disabilities. And that makes those rights real. And so I want to thank you for being here with us in our virtual gala. And I want to thank all the staff of DRA, the DRA lawyers, those private attorney generals who go into court and fight to secure our rights and to see that the law is carried out to its full intent. Thank you very, very much.
Hi, my name is Carson Tuller. I'm a professional speaker, a personal performance coach, and a disability rights and LGBTQ advocate. This year, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is groundbreaking legislation that protects the rights of people with disabilities. This legislation was transformative for people in the United States, and so many people with disabilities gave their time and energy to make sure that this legislation passed. We've enjoyed 30 years of greater accessibility and greater inclusion, but the work is not done. The Americans with Disabilities Act is still not enforced in many places in the United States. That's where DRA is making a massive difference. DRA is ensuring that the rights of people with disabilities are still protected according to the ADA, and they've won countless cases making sure that those rights are heard. I came to New York City just a year ago and realized that accessibility is still not what I thought it would be. But DRA alone made sure that 50% of taxis are accessible, making it possible for me to even just get a ride home. All of this makes a massive difference in the quality of life of people with disabilities. Thank you, DRA, for the transformative work you're doing. I can't wait to see what else you make happen for people with disabilities in the US.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Cordone. I'm the Manager of Community Impact at CSA Insurance Group, a AAA insurer, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you tonight. At CSA Insurance Group, our community impact is focused on creating equitable, resilient, and vibrant communities, and our partnership with disability rights advocates is critical to achieving that vision. As many of you know, this year we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And as a result of that landmark legislation, communities and workplaces across the country have become much more welcoming for the millions of people with disabilities in the United States. And we still have so much work to do. It is our pleasure to support disability rights advocates. They have been heroes and champions of this work for so long, and we hope that many of you will join us tonight in supporting this incredible organization.
Hi, my name is Lucy Helm. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Partner Officer, or Head of HR, at Starbucks Coffee Company. I've been a disability rights activist almost my entire life, and I was so proud to be part of the community of people advocating for the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's hard to believe that that landmark piece of legislation was passed 30 years ago this year, and that was only the beginning, because a law is just a law unless it is enforced. Disability rights advocates is the premier champion and advocate to put teeth, to put meaning, to put enforceability behind the Americans with Disabilities Act. These fierce advocates with tenacity, innovation, courage, and tireless efforts advocate for the rights of the persons with disabilities every single day. And I am so proud to stand with them, first as a member of the board of directors, and now as a champion and supporter and donor. And I hope that you are as proud as I am to stand behind this wonderful organization. Please continue your support. Thank you, DRA, for all you do for the community, for our world, for persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kia Brown, and I am a journalist, author, screenwriter, and huge fan of DRA. DRA is doing work that a lot of law firms and agencies refuse to do. They're fighting for disabled people who need it most. They're fighting landmark cases about accessibility, discrimination, the right for people, specifically people with disabilities, to live lives of independence, joy, freedom, and equity. And now more than ever, the work that DRA does is so important. The work that they do is so necessary because we have so much more work to be done. You know, we have so much more fight ahead of us, and the ADA is just the beginning. 30 years on, we're still fighting for things like accessibility, fighting things like discrimination, fighting things like a lack of equity. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 30 years with the ADA, but also in the next 30 years for the work that DRA is doing. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Annie Sagara. I am a YouTuber, artist, and activist for LGBT and disability rights, and I'm a huge supporter of DRA. As a chronically ill and disabled activist, the work towards justice and equality for disabled people can often feel incredibly isolating. But the presence and action of DRA remind me that there are so many of us in this fight. Their work is life-changing and absolutely vital in the uphill battle towards justice. Within 27 years, DRA has taken on over 500 cases in which disabled people's rights had been violated and never charges their clients for representation. They have succeeded in cases fighting for accessibility in regards to everything from pedestrian street safety, medical discrimination, voting ballots, and equitable access to entertainment and the arts. The 30th anniversary of the ADA is an opportunity to be grateful for and honor the work of activists that came before us and the progress that has been made, while simultaneously understanding that we still have so much further to go when it comes to equal rights and opportunity for disabled people in this country. And so I'm incredibly grateful to know that DRA is around and a part of this fight.